I sold my buddy a toy car for 20 bucks, thinking it was just junk. A week later, I found out it was worth $100,000, and that little deal destroyed our friendship. I never thought a tiny piece of die-cast metal could blow up my entire life. I'm not exaggerating. This story starts with a dumb little toy car I had lying around my attic and ends with my best friend and me not speaking anymore. Hell, even now when I look back, I still can't believe how one impulsive decision spiraled into something that feels like a bad Netflix drama. So here's how it all started. A couple of months ago, I was doing some spring cleaning. You know the type, pulling down dusty boxes from the attic, sneezing every 2 minutes, finding old photos, Christmas ornaments, and random junk you forgot existed. At some point, I stumbled across a small plastic tub filled with my childhood toys. There were action figures missing arms, old Hot Wheels tracks, and at the very bottom, one toy car that looked different. It was a sleek, metallic blue model with chrome edges and surprisingly detailed craftsmanship. I remember vaguely that it wasn't like the usual Hot Wheels or Matchbox cars I used to play with. It was heavier, the paint still looked good despite being decades old, and it had this odd little logo on the bottom. But to me, in that moment, it was just another relic from the past, something I hadn't touched since I was 10. Fast forward a few days. I was hanging out with my best friend, Jake. We've been close since high school, the kind of friend you share beers with after work, complain about bills with, and trust enough to let into your home without worrying if they'll raid your fridge. We were in my garage, talking crap about life, when Jake noticed the toy car sitting on my workbench. He picked it up, turned it over in his hands, and whistled. "Dude, this thing is cool. Where'd you get it?" I shrugged. "Found it in the attic. Had it since I was a kid. Probably worth like, what? A couple bucks." Jake smirked. "Man, I used to collect these when I was younger. I still have a shelf of them. If you're not sentimental about it, I'll give you 20 bucks for it." 20 bucks. At the time, that sounded great. I mean, it was a toy collecting dust, and 20 bucks is lunch money. I laughed and said, "Sure dude, it's yours. I'll even throw in the cracked Hot Wheels track for free." We both laughed, clinked our beer bottles, and that was that. At least, I thought so. A week later, everything changed. It was a lazy Saturday morning. I was scrolling through my phone while sipping coffee when I saw a post on some collectibles forum Jake had tagged me in. The title read, "Holy sh*, just scored a rare 1969 Hot Wheels Beach Bomb prototype for dirt cheap." I clicked. There it was. My toy car. Apparently, this wasn't just some random car. It was a legendary prototype, one of only a handful ever made before the company switched to a different design. Collectors considered it the holy grail of Hot Wheels. And the kicker? The article Jake linked to said the last one sold at auction for, wait for it, $100,000. My coffee nearly sprayed across the room. I sat there, staring at the screen, my stomach twisting. This had to be a joke, right? No way my dusty attic toy was worth 6 figures. No way Jake, my buddy, just walked away with that kind of treasure for 20 bucks. I texted him instantly, "Dude, that car I sold you, is this real?" He replied within seconds, "Yup, it's real." Insane, right? I hit the jackpot. Hit the jackpot. That phrase burned into my brain. He didn't even hesitate. "No, hey man, we should talk." "No, split this." Just pure excitement about his win, my loss. That's when the paranoia kicked in. I kept replaying the moment in the garage. Did he know? Did Jake realize from the start what he was buying? The way he looked at it, the smirk, the way he offered money right away. Suddenly, all those little details felt suspicious. My phone buzzed again.
Now imagine what happens next. But before that, smash that like button and hit subscribe, cause the craziest part is just getting started.
It was Jake sending photos of the car, professionally displayed in a collector's case. He captioned it, "Can you believe this thing was in your attic? Lol, you're the real MVP for letting it go." The MVP. Like I was supposed to be proud of myself for basically handing over a winning lottery ticket. I couldn't shake the pit in my stomach. My hands trembled as I set the phone down. 20 bucks. That's what my best friend valued our friendship at, apparently. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. Was I being greedy? Maybe. But at the same time, if roles were reversed, I would have told him the truth. I would have said, "Bro, you're sitting on gold here. Let's figure this out together." That's what friends are supposed to do, right? But Jake, he didn't even hesitate. He took it, smiled, and never looked back. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that metallic blue car. I heard Jake's laugh, and in the silence, I realized this wasn't just about money. It was about betrayal. I didn't lose a toy car. I lost trust. And trust, unlike toys, can't be bought back, not for 20 bucks. Not even for 100,000. The week after I found out about the car was pure hell. My brain just would not shut off. I kept replaying everything. Jake holding it in his hand, me shrugging it off, the casual, 20 bucks. It was like my life suddenly had a new before and after. Before, thought I had a solid friendship, built on honesty. After, I started seeing cracks everywhere. Every time I scrolled social media, there he was, Jake, posting about his incredible find. He joined new collector groups, bragged about hitting the score of a lifetime, and even made a TikTok showing off the car. I watched, jaw clenched, as he grinned for the camera, holding up the tiny piece of metal like a trophy. The caption read, "From $20 to $100,000. Sometimes the universe just blesses you." Blesses you? No, man. The universe didn't bless you. I did. And all I got was a cheap beer and a pat on the back. The more I thought about it, the angrier I got. I tried venting to my girlfriend Amy about the whole thing. She frowned and said, "Honestly, it's shady. If he knew, that's messed up. But even if he didn't, a real friend would split it with you. Or at least acknowledge how unfair it is." "Exactly," said, pacing the room. "It's not just about the money, it's the principle." He played me. Amy gave me this look, half sympathy, half warning. "So what are you gonna do? Confront him? Or let it eat you alive?" That night, I made up my mind. I had to talk to Jake face to face. We met up at our usual bar, a small dive called Murphy's on the corner of Main Street. Normally, it was our spot where we watched games, shot pool, and blew off steam. But that night, it felt like neutral territory for a showdown. Jake strolled in, cheerful as ever, wearing a new leather jacket I had never seen before. My eyes instantly narrowed. A new jacket, paid for by the toy car money. My blood boiled. "Yo, bro," he said, sliding into the booth. "Man, thanks again for that car. You have no idea how life-changing this is for me." I gritted my teeth. "Yeah, about that." He raised an eyebrow, like he wasn't expecting me to push back. "What?" I leaned forward. "Jake, did you know? Did you know what that car was worth when you bought it from me?" For a split second, I saw it. A flicker in his eyes. Guilt? Hesitation? Then he smirked and shrugged. "Man, I had a hunch. I wasn't sure, but yeah, I thought it might be valuable." I slammed my hand on the table, making the glasses rattle. "A hunch? And you didn't say anything? You just, what, tricked me into selling it?" Jake raised his hands defensively. "Whoa, calm down. I didn't trick you. I offered you money. You agreed. That's called a deal, bro. Nobody forced you." I stared at him in disbelief. "You're seriously hiding behind technicalities? You knew, and instead of being honest, you decided to screw me over for a payday." His tone turned sharp. "Look, I didn't screw you over. You didn't care about the car. You literally said it was junk from your attic. How's that my fault?" My hands were shaking. I wanted to yell, throw something, do anything to release the frustration bubbling inside. Because friends don't do that, Jake. Friends don't profit off each other's ignorance. If I found a winning lottery ticket in your wallet, would it be cool if I cashed it and said, "Well, you didn't notice it, bro"? He rolled his eyes. "You're being dramatic. It's not the same." "It's exactly the same," shot back. The silence that followed was heavy. The air between us felt like it was filled with smoke, thick and suffocating. Finally, Jake leaned back, his expression hardening. "Look, I get it. You're pissed. But this is how life works. Sometimes you lose out. Sometimes you win. This time, I won." That sentence broke something inside me. I pushed my chair back, stood up, and threw a crumpled $20 bill on the table. "Here, buy yourself another drink with your winnings." I walked out, my chest pounding. Behind me, I heard him call out, "Don't be salty, man." But I didn't turn around. The days after that fight were weird. We didn't text. We didn't hang out. When mutual friends asked what was going on, I brushed it off with, "Just busy." But inside, I was stewing. Jake continued to flaunt his score. He even started planning to sell the car at an auction in New York. That's when things got complicated. One night, Amy found me scrolling obsessively through collector forums. She sat down beside me and asked, "What are you doing?" I muttered, "Research. If he's gonna sell that car, I want to know everything about it. Maybe I can prove it was mine." She sighed. "Babe, I get it, but are you really ready to go to war with your best friend over this?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "It's not about the car anymore. It's about respect." He made me feel like an idiot, like I didn't matter, and if I let it go, what does that say about me? Amy didn't answer. She just squeezed my hand, but her silence said everything. That's when I decided, if Jake wanted to play dirty, I wasn't going to sit back. The next week, I showed up uninvited at his house. He was in the garage, setting up a display case with the car inside. The sight made my stomach twist. That was my attic find. My childhood toy. "Nice setup," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. Jake jumped. "Jesus, man, don't sneak up on me." I stepped closer, eyes locked on the car. "So this is how it is, huh? You get rich, and I get nothing?" He crossed his arms. "What do you want me to do? Write you a check?" "That's not happening." I nodded slowly, pretending to accept it. But inside, a new idea was forming. Something reckless, dangerous. I wasn't just going to argue anymore. I was going to make sure the truth came out one way or another. The auction was just 2 weeks away, and every day felt like sand slipping through my fingers. Jake was buzzing with excitement, telling anyone who would listen about his lucky attic score. It killed me. Every time he said that phrase, I wanted to scream. It wasn't your attic. It was mine. I kept trying to tell myself to let it go, to move on, but I couldn't. It wasn't about the toy anymore. It was about trust, respect, and the fact that my so-called best friend had turned into a stranger I didn't recognize. Amy tried to talk me down. "You're letting him live rent-free in your head," she said one night while we ate takeout on the couch. "Because he stole from me," I snapped. She frowned. "Technically, you sold it to him. That's the gray area." "Yeah," I muttered, stabbing at my food with a fork. "A gray area he exploited." The breaking point came when Jake posted an Instagram story. A glossy photo of the toy car sitting in a custom case with the caption, "Ready for New York. Goodbye debt. Hello freedom." Freedom. That word hit me like a brick. I was drowning in student loans, working double shifts just to stay afloat, and here was Jake, turning my childhood junk into his golden ticket. I messaged him, "We need to talk." We met again at Murphy's, the same place where our friendship had already cracked. Jake was grinning, beer in hand. "Man, you're still salty about this? I thought we were done." I stared at him, forcing my voice to stay calm. "We're not done. You're taking something that wasn't yours and cashing in on it. That's not just shitty, that's betrayal." He rolled his eyes. "Jesus, you sound like my ex, always talking about betrayal. You sold it, I bought it. End of story." "Not end of story," I said, my fists tightening. "That car was in my family attic for decades. It was mine. You knew its value and you played me. That's not a deal, that's manipulation." Jake leaned forward, smirking. "Look, if it helps you sleep at night, I'll buy you dinner when the check clears. A steak? Even. Medium rare, just like you like it." I laughed, but it wasn't humor, it was disbelief. "Do you even hear yourself? You're throwing me scraps from a meal I cooked. I don't want your effing steak, Jake. I want what's fair." The smirk vanished. His tone turned icy. "Well, life's not fair. Maybe next time you'll think twice before selling something for $20. Something inside me snapped. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You know what, man? You win. Sell it. Get rich. But don't ever call me your friend again." The words hung in the air like a final verdict. Jake opened his mouth like he wanted to fire back, but for once, he stayed silent. I walked out of Murphy's, my chest heavy. For the first time, I realized something brutal. Jake wasn't my friend anymore. He was just another guy who screwed me over. But the story didn't end there. A few days later, I started getting messages from people in the collector forums. Someone had posted about Jake's car, and apparently, the toy wasn't just valuable, it was legendary. A one-of-a-kind prototype. And with items like that, provenance mattered. Provenance, the history of ownership. And Jake didn't have it. That's when an idea started forming. Dangerous, petty, but also tempting. If I could prove the car came from my attic, my family, maybe even with old photos or receipts, Jake's lucky score could collapse overnight. The auction house would demand answers, maybe even cancel the sale. Amy looked nervous when I told her, "Are you sure you want to go down that road? It could get ugly." I stared at her, feeling the bitterness rise. It's already ugly. The night before the auction, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my desk, scrolling through old family albums, digging through boxes of junk I hadn't touched in years. And then, I found it. A faded Polaroid of me as a kid, holding that exact toy car in my hand. Same scratches, same paint chip on the spoiler. Proof. I sat back in my chair, heart pounding. This was it. My weapon. For the first time in weeks, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I had the upper hand. The morning of the auction felt like the universe had its thumb pressing down on my chest. I woke up before sunrise, my hands already shaking, the Polaroid photo lying on the table like a loaded gun. Jake had no idea I had proof. Proof that the car had been mine, that his story about the lucky attic score was just that, a story. I wasn't sure if I was going to use it, but knowing I could, that changed everything. Amy drove me into the city. Neither of us talked much. She just glanced at me from time to time, her expression saying all the things she didn't want to say out loud. Don't burn yourself. Don't lose yourself in this. The auction house was nothing like I imagined. High ceilings, marble floors, the air so polished it felt like even my shoes weren't good enough to be there. Men in suits with expensive watches, women in dresses that probably cost more than my car. Everyone looked like they belonged. Everyone except me. Jake, of course, fit right in. He was at the center of it all, laughing, shaking hands, acting like some kind of celebrity. And right in the middle of a glass display case sat the car. My car, lit like a jewel. I stood there staring, every nerve in my body screaming. Jake spotted me and sauntered over, his grin smug as hell. "Didn't expect to see you here. Came to watch me make history?" I clenched my fists but forced a smile. "Maybe I came to watch you choke." His grin faltered for a second before he brushed it off. "We'll see about that." The auction began. Item after item passed, with people casually throwing down more money than I'd make in a year. I barely heard any of it. My whole body was wired on adrenaline, waiting for that moment. And then it came. Lot number 72. The toy car. The auctioneer's voice boomed. "Ladies and gentlemen, what you see here is one of the rarest prototypes in toy car history. We will begin bidding at $20,000. Hands shot up instantly. 25, 30, 40. The numbers kept climbing, the room buzzing with excitement. Jake sat in the front row, his smug grin plastered back on his face as the price skyrocketed. 50, 60, 70. By the time it hit 90,000, my pulse was so loud in my ears I could barely think. 95, 100. The room broke into applause as if the money meant anything to them. And that's when I stood up. "Excuse me," my voice cracked, but it was enough to make heads turn. The auctioneer frowned. "Sir, please take your seat." I held up the Polaroid. My hand was shaking, but I kept it high. "Before you sell that car, you should know something. That toy doesn't belong to him. It belonged to me. I've got proof." The room erupted into murmurs. Jake's face drained of color. He stood up, shouting, "He's lying. He's just bitter because he sold it to me." "Bitter?" I barked back. "Maybe, but this photo is from 1998. That's me holding the car. You didn't find it in your attic, Jake. You took it from mine." Gasps rippled through the crowd. The auctioneer gestured for security, but the bidders were already whispering, their eyes darting between me, the photo, and the car. Jake stormed toward me, his face twisted with rage. You're destroying everything. Do you know what you're doing?" "Yeah," I said. My voice finally steady. "I'm telling the truth." For a long moment, it felt like the entire room froze. And then, one by one, the bidders started lowering their paddles. The auctioneer tried to salvage it, but the momentum was gone. The lot was pulled. Jake's dream payday had just collapsed. We ended up outside, the crisp air hitting my face like ice. Jake shoved me hard against the wall. "You think you won?" he spat. "You ruined both of us. Now, nobody gets the money. Not me. Not you. Nothing." I shoved him back. I never wanted the money. I wanted my friend back, but I guess he doesn't exist anymore. For the first time since this whole nightmare began, Jake had no comeback. He just stared at me, breathing hard, his eyes full of hate and maybe regret. That night, I sat at home with the Polaroid still in my hand. Amy curled up next to me, silent. I didn't feel like I'd won, but I also didn't feel like I'd lost. Jake was right about one thing. Now nobody got the money, but maybe, just maybe, what I got instead was something worth more. The reminder that some friendships aren't worth saving no matter how much history you share. And that realization, it hurt like hell. I sat in that small, gray interrogation room, the buzzing fluorescent light above me making everything feel surreal. Hours had passed since the cops found that bizarre stash in my trunk bags I had never seen. Cash bundled tight with rubber bands, and something that looked suspiciously like drug paraphernalia. I kept replaying it in my head, asking myself the same damn question. How the hell did this get into my car? Detective Ramirez leaned back in her chair, narrowing like she was trying to read my soul. "Look, Jason," she said, calm but sharp. "You're either the unluckiest driver in the city, or you're playing stupid. I swear to God." I snapped, voice cracking from exhaustion. "I don't know how that crap got in my car. I just drive to work and back." "I don't." "Save it." She cut me off. "Your prints are on the trunk latch. We can place you at the scene. Unless you've got an explanation, this doesn't look good." I wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Of course, my prints were on the latch, it was my damn car. But in that moment, the line between innocent and guilty felt razor thin. Then my phone buzzed on the desk. One of the officers had seized it earlier, but Ramirez slid it toward me. On the screen was a text from my brother. "Don't freak out. I needed a place to stash something. I'll explain." My stomach dropped. My brother, Eric, the guy who'd always been the wild one, had just confessed, in the dumbest possible way, that all this mess was on him. I showed Ramirez the text, hands trembling. She read it, expression unreadable, then left the room without a word. Minutes crawled by like hours. I could hear muffled conversations in the hallway. When she came back, her tone had changed. "So, your brother's name is Eric, huh? Funny. We've been building a case on him for months." Everything inside me twisted. On one hand, I was relieved I wasn't insane, those things weren't mine. On the other, the realization hit me like a truck. My own brother had set me up, whether he meant to or not. By the time they released me, dawn was breaking. The city outside felt cold, emptier. Eric wasn't answering his phone. I drove home, hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles ached. The whole night played back in fragments, flashing lights, bags in my trunk, Ramirez's eyes. None of it felt real, but the text on my phone was proof. And here's the part that haunts me. I never turned him in. I told the cops I had no clue where he was, and they let me go. Maybe that makes me loyal. Maybe it makes me complicit. I honestly don't know anymore. What I do know is this. Every time I open my trunk now, I half expect to find something else waiting. And every time my phone buzzes, I wonder if it's Eric or the cops, ready to drag me back into a nightmare I never asked for.